Fly fishing. Let's get into it. So guys, if you live in Ireland, you'll know that the fly fishing season is very close to starting. I think we're like a couple of weeks away. And because of that, I wanted to give you my guide, or kind of my setup for when I'm going fishing. Obviously, once again, this is going to be purely based on the southeast of Ireland. I know that fly fishing varies drastically depending on where you are. Here in the southeast, I'm going to be running through the rods I like to use, the reels, the flies, the lines, the nets, the hats, the bags, the rivers I like to fish, just the whole shebang. Everything that is fly fishing inclusive. For brown trout predominantly. I won't be going into salmon fishing in this video. I actually don't really fly fish for salmon as of yet. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump straight into it. I'm going to be starting with the rods and reels. All right guys, so this is the general rod that I'll be using whenever I go fly fishing. The length of it is 8'6". It's a wonderful line here, rod here. It's actually, the brand of it is, it's Orvis. I'm Orvis paired up with the reel as well. Absolutely great rod. Orvis obviously are a famous fly fishing brand, so if you know fly fishing, you'll know Orvis are great. I do love this rod and I do love the reel. It's just an Orvis, obviously the line weight is 5. Very standard, kind of basic rundown. And I kind of use an intermediate sinking line there. Obviously that can change, like as you can see here. Like here I've got some other reels and those are different types of lines. You have like floating lines and sinking lines. That's a smaller reel. That's a 5 weight as well there, and that's about, I think, a 3 weight. I did have a 3 weight rod. I did have a 4 weight rod, but both of those have unfortunately broken, so that kind of sucks. Guys, I fish the Slaney and the Barrow predominantly for fly fishing. Now both the seasons start for trout on the 17th of March, so do bear that in mind if you are planning on going fishing down at those rivers. The Slaney is a private river. Of course, you do have to be part of the club. There's multiple clubs along the stretch of the banks of the river. And then the Barrow, I don't believe you need, there are certain areas where you definitely do need to be part of an angling club, to be a member of an angling club. I know Greg Namana has one, and I know that, I want to say St. Mullins, I think, has one as well. However, I'm not sure how strictly those are monitored. I think they do need to be monitored a bit stricter, but most of the Barrow, I do believe, is open to fly fishing from the 17th onward for brown trout. Yeah, running through the setup, I find that the 5 weight is perfect for fishing the Barrow and for fishing the Slaney. Trout stocks, as we know, if you're a trout angler in Ireland, they are lacking in places like the southeast. I know that, you know, in the north, kind of around the Donegal area, and then there's some, obviously on the west coast, there's some fabulous trout fishing. There's a lot of guys at the moment out there catching some savage trout that I've been seeing on Instagram. So going back to the rods, I suppose what I was where I was going with that is, you know, if you're using smaller rivers, I typically would like to use a smaller rod. Like if you're fishing like a smaller creek or a smaller stream, I'd go with like a 3 or 4 weight rod. I have actually wanted to get, like, I know you can get like 2 weight rods, 1 weight rods, and you can fish those. I really would like to try that. I know it's not necessarily, they're very hard to come by though, like good quality, like 1 weight rods. Also, it's like, how practical is it really to be fishing for, like, you know, fish up to a pound on a 1 weight rod? I don't know. It'd be fun though. There's also something to be said about tenkara fishing, which I haven't tried yet, only a little bit, and it's something I want to get, maybe get into, although I know it's like kind of frowned upon in the fly fishing community, at least over in the States. So we might just steer clear of that. If I'm fishing the Slaney, I like to fish a 5 weight. If I'm fishing the Barrow, I like to fish a 5 weight. Any sort of tributaries that come off those rivers, there's a few that I know of. Private waters, by the way, private land, so you need landowner permission, or you need to be part of a member for certain stretches. I will definitely fish like a 3 or 4 weight. I think it's just more fun. You know, as I was saying, in the southeast, we don't have huge brown trout. They can get caught, and I know that there's massive sea trout out in the sea, and they'll run up the rivers. The odds of you getting a really nice brown trout nowadays in the southeast is very slim. That could be due to a multitude of reasons, you know, pollution, farming, poaching, species like invasive species such as the dace, obviously competing with these fish as well. Anyways, that's for a whole nother video. Let's move on. Let's start looking at the business end. Let's look at the flies. So I'm going to be running through the flies that I like to use. So I use a variety of flies. I use nymphs, I use wet flies, I use dry flies, and I do throw streamers around occasionally. People are going to be like, what the heck? But I do like streamers when the conditions are right, because it's just so much fun. There's nothing better than throwing like something that isn't supposed to be, you get what I'm saying. Streamers they're a bit unorthodox, but I like them. So starting off, we're going to talk about nymphing. Nymphing is a great kind of fly fishing technique. And the nymphs that I use typically, I like to do this matching the hatch sort of thing. So please forgive my lack of knowledge maybe on fly names and the names of the insects that are in the water. But what I do like to do is when I get down to the river, when I get down to the stream, the first thing I'll do is I'll start picking up rocks in the river without obviously disturbing the ecosystem too much. Just anything around the flow. And then I'm having a look. What? Why are you looking at me like that? There's a simple saying in fly fishing is matching the hatch. So you got to make sure you know what the fish are feeding on first. And often now, coming up springtime, it's nymphs. A lot of the fish are feeding on nymphs. Sorry, I keep looking down. I have my flies here. That's why I keep looking down. So a hairtail nymph is a great, I suppose, a very great go-to nymph for myself, especially on the Slaney. I find that it's an absolutely wonderful nymph. I'm not 100% sure what it's replicating, what bug it's replicating. But if you do pick up the stones and you have a look at the insects that are going through the flow and through the current, you will find that there are some little insects that replicate that. Another one is kind of like a rock, I don't know what the name is. It's kind of like a stone fly sort of thing. They like stick on the stones, and they're great as well. Obviously, nymphing is very, in my opinion, kind of the easiest style of fly fishing, just because it's very straightforward, it's very simple, and it's very effective. And I do love nymph fishing. And if you guys would like to see a nymphing tutorial video, please let us know in the comments. We do have some ideas for doing some tutorial videos, but if it's specifically nymphing you want to see Euro nymphing, let us know. We'll crack on with that. But if you guys don't want to see that video, it's fine. We're gonna make it anyway, so yeah. Moving on, something that I don't think gets fished as much in the southeast, but I actually will turn to them every now and then, it is a buzzer. Now, buzzers are kind of unorthodox. I don't meet many people who are out on the bank fishing with buzzers for trout, but I think they're great. I think they replicate a nice emerger coming up from the stones or whatever, getting ready to hatch. And I think that they can be fished very similarly to nymphs, and they do work well. They're very right time of day, right conditions, you're gonna have a great time with buzzers. I won't throw them all the time, to be honest. Like, I won't tie them around on a lot, but time and place, and they're super effective. Moving on to the next and my favorite unorthodox sort of fly fishing method. I say unorthodox, but it's not really unorthodox, is it? It's kind of just, it's something that is kind of hit or miss. And when it's a hit, it's an absolute hit. It's amazing. Streamers. I have these small streamers that I got from AliExpress or Temu or something, and they're so cool. I mean, have a look at this. This is just a wonderful streamer, the gold on it. I love it. It kind of replicates a spinner, I suppose, but it's still a fly. And when the water's real murky, I can sometimes use that as a trailer fly, which is interesting. So I have a dropper on, and then maybe with like a pheasant tail above that, or a kill devil spider or something like that. And then have that as a trailer, and it just works. Like, if the water's murky and high, like kind of just as spring, like kind of the 17th, as Paddy's Day happens, or just that weekend kind of thing, that first week when the river's still a bit high and murky, we have a little bit of rain, I think that it is just so effective. And more than anything, it's just so much fun. Streamers are just so much fun. When you're hooking into a fish on a streamer, it's just like, and often they're bigger fish. Like, often the fish that will take a streamer, now I have had small trout take streamers as well. I feel like your odds are increased when, and they're just aggressive. Trout can be aggressive, as we know. All right, moving on. We're looking at some pheasant tail wet flies now. So we're just gonna take it back to good old fashioned wet fly fishing. These are the two kind of pheasant tails that I fish the most. I heard a fly fisherman once say that anything with black, red, and silver on it is a killer, and it's absolutely true. There's also is it a butcher, bloody butcher, I think the name of the fly is? Killer fly, no pun intended. Butcher and whatever, unreal. And pheasant tails, time and place again, bit of silver like that. I think pheasant tails are good for sea trout in rivers. Don't quote me on that. I don't know anything about sea trout fishing in rivers. I feel like I heard that somewhere, so I'm not spreading false information here. I could be, I don't even know. Pheasant tails are great. Kind of my wet fly tactics, just kind of casting and swinging, just very simple swinging, and then on the retrieve, just a figure of 8 retrieve. But yeah, so my tactic for wet fly fishing, and we will be doing a tutorial video on this on wet flies. It's very simple. I like to swing the flies across the current. So I'll be casting at a 45-degree angle, or just across anywhere where there's a bit of flow, and you kind of just let the fly do the work. In murkier water, I will do a faster retrieve. I feel like just kind of a little bit of a strip or a figure of 8, and then on the retrieve, a figure of 8 as well, will always work. Well, I say always work, it will work sometimes. It's fly fishing. It's not like every cast you're catching fish, unless like that does happen sometimes. So with wet flies, that's sort of my tactic, but we will, you know, obviously be getting way more into that in some further videos. Now, the next fly that I absolutely love is the Kill Devil spider. Oh, I feel like I'm getting that wrong, but I don't know if I am. If you fish the Slaney, you will know that everyone swears by this fly. It is an absolute killer of a fly. I don't know what it's replicating in the water. It just looks like a little brown bug or a beetle or something. I'm not 100% sure, but my God, it's not replicating a spider anyways, even though that's the name, but it is just so good. Every single cast, like there have been days where I've gone down and it's just like, you know, you go down in the evening and you just, so one fly, like I won't be fishing 2 or 3 flies, just that, and I'm just swinging that. Oh, I mean, yeah, just fish after fish after fish. If you're in a good swim, if they're feeding and it's just presented to them nicely, they'll hit it, and brown trout love them, especially on the Slaney. So would not recommend that fly enough. It's an absolutely killer fly. Moving on to the kind of, you know, sort of end of summer, midsummer, end of summer sort of fly fishing. We're talking dry flies. Dry flies are great. Like, where do I begin? It's kind of like top water fishing for pike, but with like flies for trout. I don't know. This is not a great analogy, but I love dry fly fishing. There's just something special about seeing a fish like rise, sometimes even fling themselves straight out of the water just to get that fly. So I love that. It's phenomenal fishing. What can I say about dry fly fishing? Casting upstream, just kind of slowly bringing it down, just feeding your line, keeping that line, you know, keeping the line tight so that if you get a strike, you can hit that. And yeah, I mean, I don't really, these flies here, I'm not 100% sure the names. They are micro dry flies, and that's something I'll say about dry fly fishing that I've found on the Slaney more than I have on the Barrow. The Barrow, I feel like you can throw around bigger flies for trout, and you obviously always catch dace on the Barrow, unfortunately. So I actually got these micro flies on Slaney at Slaney Fishing. It's a store located right on the Slaney, and that's actually where I get my pass from. I'm part of the Tulla Angling or fly fishing club there, so that's where I get my pass from. Yeah, I got these. I don't know the name of them, but they're like considered micro flies. I think they're like a size 12 or a size 14, and they're absolutely phenomenal. They replicate like the flies that you just see flying around along the riverbanks. So I love them. Again, I don't know the name. I feel like any small dry fly will work if the color is fine. Like I feel like it's not that important with dry fly fishing because you're kind of replicating more of a silhouette than you are the actual fly, if that makes any sense. You know, as opposed to if you're fishing wet flies or nymphs, the fish are going to have a much clearer sort of target when they're seeing things flowing down. But when it's a dry fly, I personally feel like a dry fly is just going to be more, it was just easier to trick a fish with as opposed to a wet fly. But that being said, you know, you're fishing, I suppose you can fish wet flies in much faster water, which gives the fish a little bit of a less of a reaction time. They're kind of going to make a decision quicker if they see something moving in faster water, but as opposed to like if they're seeing a dry fly, which you're usually fishing in slower water. So I feel like if a fly is coming down, I think I'm kind of digressing a little bit here. We're getting a little bit into the whole like, but see, this is the thing about fly fishing is it just is so in depth. There is a lot to fly fishing, and that's why we're just going to have so many fly fishing videos coming out. I reckon this summer we've got plans for a lot of fly fishing stuff, so please stay tuned. And like I always say every video, if you do want to see us do something or try something out, please leave a recommendation and let us know. Like we're very, very, very keen to do whatever really. We're looking for ideas all the time. We love fresh ideas. We want bingo, bango, bongo. All right, well that's it for the flies. I'm just gonna run in through some gear that I actually like to carry around as well. That not just the rods and the flies, but let's get into that. This right here is my fly bag. It is Explorer Fly Fishing. I'm not really sure the brand, but it's phenomenal. I've emptied it out now just to have a show. It's got a front pocket here, which got your, it actually has a nice tippet holder, a nice leader holder. You won't really be able to see that on this. I suppose we can do some, but yeah, it's got 2 pouches and an opening there as well. It's wonderful. It clips onto the front of the chest. It's got a hook there with a magnetic kind of line there, where I can put my clippers on and things like that, and then that just clips there. There's a fly holder in there, so you can actually put flies on the inside as opposed to just having your fly box. I don't go fly fishing without this. I will always have this on me when I'm fly fishing, unless I'm obviously recording and I have to put something else on my chest, then I'll just use my pockets. But this is just a winner for me. It's perfect. Guys, you cannot go fly fishing without a net. It's a must-have. As we know, trout are very fragile fish and they must be handled with extreme care. For that reason, I always carry a small net like this. Now, this isn't rubber, and I would really like a rubber net as opposed to this. This is just kind of the standard. Obviously, this is fine. I think rubber is supposed to be better for the trout, so I've heard. I'm not 100% sure the science behind that, but I'm sure there's a reason people do say to use rubber nets. Yeah, guys, when you're handling trout, obviously just always have to be careful. Wet your hands before handling them. They are super delicate fish. And obviously in the peak summer when the weather is really, really warm, we do have to just take care of our fish. These are our fish at the end of the day, and they run through our wild rivers, and we want to keep them like that. Conservation for this species is obviously like of the utmost important. That's why you need a net like this. You don't want to be pulling trout off. You know, I've seen people do it where they just pull a trout up and put it onto the grass, onto the bank, and you know, onto like stones and stuff. It's like, guys, come on, just have a bit of respect for the fish, have a bit of respect for like the rules that are in place. And you want your kids to be able to fish for these fish one day. You want your grandkids to be able to fish for these fish one day. So just, you know, look after them. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button. We absolutely appreciate every single one of you who comes and watches. The channel wouldn't be what it is without you guys, so thanks so much. We're still growing, we're still getting there. And like I said earlier in the video, if you have any ideas and you think they'd be great for us, please share them with us. Our DMs are open at the Fishermac. That's going to be dropped down below in the description, you know, and we also have an email address which will also be in the description below if you have any ideas, or you just want to send us a message, or even if you just want to come fishing with us, let us know. We'd be happy to do something like that. Like I said as well, we are going to be doing a lot of fly fishing content. We have some very, very, very big plans this summer, so please stay tuned for that. We're looking at doing some fly fishing tutorials, so that'll be nymphing, wet fly fishing, dry fly fishing. And if we're not catching fish in those videos, that's okay. It's just going to be a little guide of how we would go about doing our fly fishing for certain species: pike, perch, trout, dace, not dace. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for me today. We'll see you next week.